So welcome everybody. Good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you're calling in from the world. I'm actually normally in London, but today I'm in Krakow. And I'd love if you guys want to drop in the messages where you're calling in from. It'd be good to kind of get a sense where everybody's calling in from. And it's funny, Rebecca, you're out at sea right now, right?
Yes, sir.
You want to disclose where that is, or you're keeping it quiet and keeping this a
Well,
mystery?
usually I'm based out of California, but right now I am just off the coast of Florida, calling in from the middle of the ocean. So I think it's a really good. This is a really good example of how connected this world is, right? We've got Steve coming in from Krakow, I'm coming in from the water. We've got a couple of we got Brandon, Pat, Dave here who are coming in from other continents, literally. So, yeah, we're here to talk about encryption in a connected world, and I think this is a very good example of that.
Yeah, how well connected we are. Yeah, because I heard one of the guys is in Hawaii, the other one's in California. So anyway, today, listen, guys, we're going to be talking about post-quantum cryptography. There's been a lot of discussion around this, especially with the announcement at NIST on the three algorithms. And I was lucky enough to get Rebecca, and I reached out to her, and I'm like, hey, I think the people at HorizonX and the audience that I've got would love to hear more about what's going on in this space. How do people prepare for PQC? Obviously, there's a lot out there in the news. Maybe you just kind of started off. We're going to talk a little bit about QSecure for the people that don't know QSecure. Before I do that, though, I did see when I got some paperwork, Rebecca, that you were recently announced as the CEO, which is really exciting. I kind of saw that coming, but that's great that it's official. And I was kind of nervous that I was gonna. I'm guilty of putting out information before I should. And I was thinking, okay, well, I guess everybody here is going to hear it here first. So, do you want to talk about that and about your new position?
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, this is you're hearing it here first. It's a super exciting time, and I just took over the CEO role at QSecure, and I've been here since the beginning. Have an incredible team. And this is the consensus is, especially post standardization, that this and 2025 are the year of post quantum and crypto agility, which we'll talk about today. So it's a really exciting transition time for us. I have been leading the product side of the company for, gosh, since at least 2020. And we now have the QProtect platform is pretty widely recognized as in terms of remediation, in terms of helping lead the way for organizations, both government and private, to transition into this post-quantum world, this post-RSA world, really, where encryption is a different ballgame. Our platform is really widely recognized as the platform to be working with, and so I'm very proud to be working with this team. Very proud to be leading QSecure into this next era of essentially mass adoption of quantum safe encryption and crypto agile encryption. So excited to be talking with everybody today. And yeah, as you asked, what QSecure does is exactly that. We started initially working with the government several years ago, and because we had been working in quantum and AI spaces, we understood, I think, before most people saw that that there has to be a migration to to encryption that is not vulnerable to the quantum threat. And I think probably most people in the audience are now aware, though it was not at that time. Not everyone was aware that this is a challenge we're facing. So we started very early and grew very quickly, working with both government and private sector to help facilitate this transition, not just to quantum safe encryption throughout organizations, but to a different sort of a paradigm shift, if you will, of how encryption is managed for a quantum and AI world when threats arise faster and faster, and give organizations the tools to monitor and control their encryption, so that our most sensitive data remains safe. So that is what we do.
Excellent. Thank you, Rebecca. You know what? And I kind of want to start off with how we actually met. I don't know if you remember, but we actually met at Davos when going into a quantum it was a quantum conference. And when I actually left HSBC, which was my previous job, I actually started looking at different companies and how I could partner up with the best of the best. And I think going back to what you're saying, Rebecca, is in looking out there and seeing what companies are doing this and knowing that PQC was going to be an area where there's going to be a lot of focus, especially for financial institutions and other organizations, that I wanted to find who was going to be the best. And since we're fully disclosing, I'll also disclose, because I haven't really publicly said this, is that I'm actually a senior advisor to QSecure, and I have been for months and kind of working in the background on that. So I'm actually really excited and kind of talking in this space. The one area that I do want to talk about is the recent announcement with NIST, right? They just announced their 3 algorithms. And I wanted to see, what did that mean for the organization? I know what that means for us. We're getting a lot of incoming people trying to understand, and I'll kind of share from our side what we're getting. But maybe before I do that, let me go to you and see, what is it, has things picked up, or a lot of people calling you guys? What's going on since the August 13th announcement?
Yeah, it's been, I mean, it's huge shift. Before, what we were seeing, pre-standardization. Now these algorithms, right? They're the new standards, and NIST has now officially released those standards, and it's the starting pistol, right? They said, hey, it's time. RSA, we are now living in a post-RSA world. But we did know what those standards were likely to be for the several years leading up to standardization. And we would primarily be working with, I think, the 3 biggest sectors: financial sector, government, public sector, and actually telecommunications. And now, post-standardization, there's been a huge shift. I think we talk with Gartner quite frequently. And they have said that the number of inquiries and calls have gone up 3 to 5x since standardization from organizations.
Wow. Wow.
And yes, incredibly indicative of what we're seeing. And I think at this point, again, we started in 2020. Nobody was talking about this. Now, when we talk to CISOs, at least in the Fortune 500, every CISO in that sector, and also more broadly now post-standardization, either is well on their way to the post-quantum migration, or has it established and funded within their 3-year roadmap. So that's what I'm seeing. Steve, what are you seeing?
I mean, yeah, I think the same thing. I'm starting to see a lot of RFPs pick up, and RFIs, people coming out and asking for this. Obviously, with all the announcement on the how far quantum is coming along, pushing through on the increase in power, there's a lot more people coming in and getting concerned. Now, I also see the other side where people like, well, there's only like a 3% chance that a computer in the next couple of years will be able to break that. And the funny thing is, 3%, while people think that might be low, is actually pretty high, and people need to kind of protect themselves. I mean, if you could lose all your data or lose all your encryption and have a 3% chance of doing that, do you want to wait and see, or should you be preparing now? You're going to be doing it anyway. And so I think that the companies that start now are the ones that are actually going to save more money, and it'll be less complex going forward, because it is complex. I mean, it's not only looking at the encryption, it's looking at applications, it's looking at different things. So the guidance I'm giving customers is that the time to start is now. Educate yourself, understand what crypto agility is, which I'll probably jump to you to kind of explain crypto agility. You'll be hearing more about how you need to be more agile in your cryptography. And it'll be less expensive and less complicated the earlier you start. Going back to that 3%, Rebecca, I don't know if you know, but I live in Wimbledon. And
Right. Mhm.
before the pandemic, um, Wimbledon, the actual tennis organization, bought pandemic insurance. And back then, there was only a 1.5% chance that that would get activated, right? And so if you go back to think how intelligent and smart they were to sit there and understand that there was a 1.5% chance, they bought insurance and they were able to cover themselves through that. Nobody thought that, hey, there was going to be a pandemic and we're all going to work from home and but these black swan events happen. And so if the concern is, hey, there's not a quantum computer out there strong enough, I'm a strong believer that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And if you know it's coming anyway, start preparing yourself today. So I probably kind of took some of your thunder away, Rebecca, but that's kind of what I'm seeing from my end. So what are you seeing?
No, I 100%. And I do remember we met in Davos in cold, snowy Davos. And it made Steve is clear that he was just one of the visionaries in the space because he just absolutely got it, right? And we agree fully, right? If there's even a 3% chance that there's going to be a catastrophic failure, and all of your most precious data that you are charged with protecting would, if you don't remediate, could stand the chance of becoming human readable. That's something that's worth acting on, especially because, and I think this is one of the things that I see, people overcomplicate this when they're putting it into their roadmaps. There is a cure. There is the potential of a catastrophic failure, and we have a fix. And so that is the fact. And again, Gartner, right? Gartner said, I think this week, by 2029, they expect there's a solid chance that this what they call a cryptographically relevant quantum computer will be online and capable of breaking encryption.
Well,
Uh, mhm.
no, go
Yeah.
ahead. Go ahead.
So I think 100% agree, and to the point that people are overcomplicating it. I think it's people want to look at this as the type of migration that they've experienced in the past, the type of encryption migration. And those take years, and you have to sort of like pointwise understand where everything lives in your network and da 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 da. What I'm seeing is that when people understand that this can be more use case driven, that there are different priorities, and I'll really fast just because we're here share some examples. We break down. Let me see. Can you see my screen?
I'm seeing the share screen. Can you share the other screen?
Share the other screen. Um, any luck now?
Not on my side, no.
Brandon, are you seeing it?
Yeah, I've got your screen back up.
You got my screen? Okay, so hopefully we're good.
Yeah, I just don't see it in full screen. Maybe it's just my view of it. But go ahead,
uh,
Brett. Fine.
yeah, it's okay if it's a little casual here, but the point is that I think to get people to not overthink this migration, and we'll get into crypto agility. You brought it up; it's a really important topic, but we break things down into 4 priorities, and you just think of them as use cases. And these are the biggest sectors that we work with. But priority 1 use cases is where you got to start. And you don't have to, what do they say? Eat the whole elephant at once. You don't have to migrate your whole entire network at once. That's a huge thing for people to understand. You have to focus on your use cases and where your most sensitive data lives and is communicated. And so priority 1 use cases are these types of data where they're most vulnerable to a breach, and they're most vulnerable to the harvest now, decrypt later threat. That idea that if that data was harvested now and made human readable in the next couple of years, that would be a bad thing. So we can break those down into different sectors. For banking and finance, that might be like online banking accounts. I bank online with Chase Bank, right? That data is very sensitive and needs to remain secret. So that needs to be remediated sooner than later. Insurance customer records, board meeting minutes, and trade secrets. Those things, again, need to remain very secret. Those are priority 1 use cases that you need to pilot sooner than later. Telecommunications backbones, subscriber call records, sensitive customer information. We do a lot of work again with the US government, national security secrets. Those are the kinds of things that are priority 1. There's priority 2, 3, and 4. And those are priorities. I won't go into those here today, but I think it's important to understand again that there are tiers to these. And so as people work on their roadmaps, and again, now is the time to start. Don't overcomplicate. Think in terms of what is most impactful to your organization, what is most impactful to your customers or your stakeholders.
Yeah, and I think this is why I got really interested in QSecure, because when I started looking at different solutions, I wanted to find something that was scalable, was easy to put in. And when I walked through the technology and the way that QSecure does it, I was incredibly impressed on how fast you're able to protect people. I mean, you're able to protect people within hours, right? And
Yeah.
how novel the solution is versus people wanting to go in there and change the hard coding and do all of this other stuff. The other thing that I would add to your point is not only protecting yourself, it's just good business. You're talking about Gardner in 2029. I didn't see that, so that's excellent. I'm definitely going to be stealing some of that, Rebecca, from you,
Right.
my next
Well,
presentation.
I took it from Gartner, so.
Yeah, yeah. But the other side, and one things I like to talk about is even in the US. So if you're working with the US and you're working with the government, there's actually an executive order put out by the White House that says everybody has to be PQC compliant by a certain date. And it's not only the people working directly with the government, it's the people, third parties that supply those suppliers. And so if you want to work for anybody that works or sells to the US government, you're going to have to be compliant anyway. That's one side of it. Now, the other side of it is that other regulators, other organizations are going to start picking up that same compliance. So at a certain point, it's going to be regulatory mandatory for you to do this. And it's great to see big companies like Apple. Apple publicly announced that they came up with their own PQC standard, which is PQ3, and then same thing with Zoom. And so you got people already picking up that, hey, this is very important. Trust, we all depend on trust, and we need people to trust our information is secure. And that could even be a selling point for organizations to say, hey, I'm already post-quantum compliant in kind of future threats, so that you don't have that harvest now in Decrypt later for some organizations. So I think it's a great time actually to be working with you guys at QSecure. I can see that things are just going to pick up from here for organizations that want to protect themselves.
Yeah, 100%. And same, I think you do some really incredible work in coming in and you really go in generally at the board level, right? And you help organizations develop their quantum strategy. And of course, every, whatever panel or whatever talk I give about quantum, it always comes back to quantum safe, right? This is the big thing on everybody's minds. But as you go in to talk to the executive management and board level management, again, it can be sort of like some of the verbiage and can be a bit intimidating, I think, in the quantum space. So
Yeah.
again, I think it's that, how do you simplify and how do you make this straightforward? Because yes, I think most people are surprised that when we work with organizations, we can remediate, we can tackle these use cases in a matter of hours.
Yeah.
And then give people that like continuous monitoring and control over their encryption. And enable all those things you were talking about, right? Being compliant, working with the federal government. The federal government is now going through this migration. So how do you, when you're going in and talking to these boards and executive teams, how do you start preparing them and distilling down exactly what they need to be thinking about?
Yeah, well, actually, it's funny because the PQC space has opened up more people to want to talk and want to understand that. And so even though PQC is more classical algorithms, mathematicians kind of develop, it's got the word quantum in it. So everybody's like, oh, I need to learn about quantum. And so
Right.
my focus has really been around focusing on the education. And so I sit on a lot of boards. I know the conversations that are happening at the board level. Quantum, along with AI and cyber, are coming up. And so this kind of hits a lot of those notes around cybersecurity, obviously, in quantum computing. So my focus has been really to be a trusted partner to the boards that I educate and that I sit on. And through education, I update them on what it is, and more importantly, what it isn't, because there is a lot of hype up there. There's a lot of people kind of doomsday and, it's now, it's today, it's over. And I don't want to do that. I'm not scaring people into acting. I want people to act with knowledge. So my main priority is to go into board level and educate the board about both the opportunities and the threats of quantum. But I really like to focus on the opportunities, like saying, look, assume this technology is real. How would you use it? How would you further your strategy? How would you look at new markets? What would you do differently if you had access to this technology? But then understanding that as those opportunities get stronger and those computers get stronger, that also means your encryption is more a threat. And so how do you protect yourself today in doing that? And so that's why I've been focused on the education piece, and I'm launching and maybe first here as well, kind of explaining, is I'm launching a course with Will Oliver and others at MIT around quantum computing, and it will be talking about both the opportunities and threats. But this course is focused on how do you educate executives in that plain language, both executives and government leaders, on that. And once you become a trusted partner and you're explaining to people and teaching people what it is, then you can help them write a strategy. And you help them write a strategy. A lot of people love to go in and say, hey, I'm going to do a POC with you. Now, that POC might be good for the company because that's what they do, but it doesn't tie into their overall strategy and stuff like that. So I'm really focused on how do I tie in quantum to their current strategy so that it naturally falls into the strategy and it helps them deliver what they want to deliver long term. And then after that, I help them run POCs, execute POCs. And the good thing about what I do is I've got access to a lot of different software companies, hardware companies, so I can pick the best of breed to bring those people and offer those solutions to my customers. So a little bit about our strategy and how we focus and look at this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's awesome. Starting with that executive buy-in, because again, this is not something that needs to live in the InfoSec groups, because this migration is more impactful than some call it the biggest technology migration that we've encountered in a digital era. So it does need that. It does need that executive buy-in. I got a slide for everything. I got one more slide that I'd love to share, because I think it kind of feeds on what you're talking about and how you motivate and help those in charge of governance understand what needs to happen. I think as you're getting into the quantum safe side, and now that we have hit NIST standardization, everybody wants to know what do we do concretely? What do we look at? And so I think it's really threefold is what I'm seeing, is what we talk to people about. But it is starting at that executive level, and it has to be the priority. So it's first 90 days is what you should have, or very quickly should be doing, is inventorying the assets that use encryption. So again, this is not like in the past. You don't have to, there's a misconception. You don't have to identify every instance of encryption, catalog it, and then prepare to sort of point-wise upgrade that. Look at it from a use case perspective. Look at the assets that use encryption. Work with those executive teams to understand what the priority is, priority 1 through 4 of those use cases. What is most impactful to the organization? And then over the next 6 months, through that collaboration with those in charge at the top, do a pilot that gets that gets organizational-wide buy-in. Start that priority 1 use case pilot. Over the next 12 months, that should then go into production. And you should start to move these priority 1 use cases into production in no more than the next 2 years. And then you go on to priority 2 and priority 3. But This is really, most people are looking for a timeline, and this is best practice. The starting pistol has gone off. This is how to start. And
Yeah,
Steve
no, this
Tucson
is
has to
excellent.
start on the board level.
This is excellent. Maybe we could share this with anybody. If you're interested in kind of learning more on this, let us know. Drop something in a message, and we'll definitely share this. I know part of you're helping CISOs, right? And CISOs aren't always like they're kind of telling everybody we need to protect ourselves. We need to do this. So I know we only have 3 minutes. Within a minute, can you kind of tell how can you help CISOs in selling this or approaching this? Because to your point, it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. There's ways you can do it easily. Maybe you can do that, and then we can kind of leave the audience with a message you'd like to leave them with, and I'll leave them with on my side as well.
I would say, again, think of this in terms of business impact. This is, if you're risking that 3% by 2029 of catastrophic failure, think about what is the highest priority use case. Talk to your board, talk to those those in the E-team. What I would also say is definitely engaged a trusted advisor, as Steve was saying. You need to be working with people who understand how to navigate this, or else you're going to get stuck in that 3 to 4 year upgrade cycle and get caught flat-footed and fall far behind your competition. So that's what I would say. Prioritize use cases, get buy-in from an organization, at an organizational level, engage trusted advisor. What about you, Steve?
I mean, I think that's the same thing. It's always good to really understand what it is and what people are doing. People are talking and understand, like people talk PQC, QKD, what all that means. And so we can definitely help people and understanding what fits your solution, what you need to focus on now. I'm a big believer in education and pushing education. So if you didn't kind of get the hint last time, I'm going to keep plugging my course at MIT that really helps people understand both holistically quantum, the opportunities and the threats. But for the callers here, and I know 30 minutes just like flew by. If you need help in this space, Rebecca and the team there, QSecure, amazing. We've partnered up. We're happy to support you guys. Please drop us a message. Either just drop us a message at quantum@horizonx.com, and we'd love to sit there and support your organization. This doesn't have to be difficult, and I think Rebecca and the team have a very good, very neat solution to help you guys protect yourself in this space. Anything you want to end on, Rebecca?
No, thank you, Steve. It's a privilege to work with you, and I look forward to hearing more from this audience. But thank you, everybody, for joining.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.